I'm Leo Michael Kinsch. I'm the oldest of 5 children. We moved out here in 1938 from Rogers Park. My dad had a greenhouse. He ran my grandfather's greenhouse. And they had torn it down during the Depression because they had too much property and they couldn't pay the taxes. And then, so my dad was looking for a greenhouse, and my uncle found a brochure. They had an auction in Palatine, and the bank owned this property. And they had a guy running the greenhouse, and they got tired of that, and they wanted to get rid of it. And the bank building in Palatine was on that auction too, right on the corner of Bothwell and Slade. That was on, and then there was a tavern in Skokie, and that was on Main Street. So, you know, and then I know my dad came out, and there was a bunch of people out here, and he bid $4,500 for the greenhouse, and he got it. But the guy that was running it contested it, and he took my dad to court, and then the judge said, well, do you have the money? Oh, no, he said, I'll have it in fall. Oh, he says, get out of here.
Your father's name was Michael, and he started...
Oh, Valentine.
Valentine. Okay, Michael goes back another generation then?
Well, my grandfather's name was Michael.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
He didn't want my name to be Michael because my cousin was already a Michael. He said, oh, we already got a Michael. So I was named after his brother.
Okay.
And they're from Luxembourg. I have more.
That's interesting.
I have more relation in Luxembourg than I have here.
When did the family come from Luxembourg?
Well, my grandmother, I think, her whole family moved over here, I think around 1870. And then I think my grandfather, in fact, I ran into one of his brothers. He said, you know, your grandfather was a fugitive. I guess they didn't have any money in Luxembourg, and his brother got beat up by somebody. And my grandfather went to visit him in the hospital, and he said, who did this? And he told him, and so my grandfather took care of it. So he took care of the guy. And then the family said, you know, you shouldn't have done that. He'll get a solicitor. I guess that's what they call a lawyer. And he said, they put him on a boat and sent him over to this country. And that's where he met my grandmother on the boat.
Oh, really? How interesting.
The first place they settled was Rogers Park?
Yeah, he worked at Rose Hill Cemetery,
Oh, okay.
you know, right on Western Avenue.
Yeah, I know what that is. All right, well, for everybody who may not know, Rogers Park is a part of Chicago.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't at that time,
Right.
but then it was annexed.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my grandfather they raised the Northwestern track through there, and they weren't going to put a viaduct on Birchwood, and my grandfather was downtown all the time, you know, pushing for that viaduct on Birchwood, and he got it in.
So how did he start gardening there? What did he start doing? He have a greenhouse? He had, or did
Well,
he
he was
just?
on my grandfather's side. He was a truck farmer,
Okay.
and then right around World War I, he built a greenhouse. But my other grandfather, on my mother's side, he had a greenhouse. He worked for a Winandy, who was a greenhouse builder, and then he built his own. He built his greenhouse in 1890. They were real low houses.
Mm-hmm.
You had to bend over to go from one house to another, but he did very well. In fact, I was saying, he used to take pride in his horses. He used to go down to the stock show and pick out real good horses. And if the horses would get stuck in the mud or something, he'd get in back of the wagon and give it a good shove. He was pretty strong.
they still using draft horses for things like that?
Well, I think they weren't,
They weren't draft horses?
my grandmother had the draft horse on the wagon
Okay.
when she went to church, because the other ones were too fast. They went to St. Henry's.
Oh, huh,
That was before St. Margaret Mary's was in existence. We actually lived in St. Jerome's Parish. But my grandfather said, oh, you don't want to go there. There's too many Irish there. Well, there were too many Irish at St. Margaret Mary's.
yeah, Margaret Mary's a Irish name.
Well, I went to grade school with Henry Hyde. He was in my class. You know, the congressman,
What grade school was that?
St. Margaret Mary's.
Oh, at the church, okay.
Well, tell us about the move out here.
Oh, well, 1938, St. Patrick's Day. My dad was able to buy that house for $2,200.
Which house?
The greenhouse.
Oh, the greenhouse, I thought you were talking about it.
The house
No,
painted
right
green.
right across, he bought these lots for
Okay.
$500, but the taxes weren't paid all the way back to 1926. But the sewer line went to Rose Street, and so he was afraid that somebody would buy it and it'd cut off the sewer. So that's why he bought it.
So, which part you have a lot of greenhouses here right now. Which was the original part, this front or the back?
Oh, the back.
Okay,
The store was put up about 1955.
okay.
And like I said, usually the streets are 66 feet wide, but this one was 50 feet. So we owned 16 feet. So that's where we put the shop up.
Okay,
And we figured it'd be on the north end, so it wouldn't shade the greenhouse. And it would protect the greenhouse.
mm-hmm. And where did you live? Did you have a
Right across the street. there.
across the street, okay.
Was that for your family or for you and your brother who all lived in that house?
Oh, yeah, I had 3 sisters and 1 brother. I was
How old were you when you came out here?
14.
14,
I went to Palatine High School,
okay.
graduated in 42.
What was the high school like when you went there?
250 people.
250.
Very
Ah.
small,
It was a township team.
yeah.
There were people from Schaumburg came to here.
Yes, because they didn't have a high school there
No,
yet.
they had a choice of going to here or Elgin. Or I think, or Glen Ellen, I'm not sure.
What classes did you take?
Oh, the general. I didn't take sewing or anything, or typing. All the, the basic courses.
Sports? Were you into sports?
I had to be in the greenhouse. My brother was all conference in basketball in 1 year. He's 3 years younger than me. But I always remember McElroy. I don't know if you remember McElroy. He wrote
I know who he is.
yeah, he wrote and he said when my brother, when they played Ela had a good team. And McElroy said, he said they play like they play downstate.
Was that good or not?
I guess that was real good.
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
Okay. What other teams did they play? What other
Oh, it's
schools?
the Northwest Conference.
Yeah, who was in the Northwest Conference?
Oh, Arlington was the Northeast. Bensonville, Ela, Antioch.
Goes far.
So after, what was like after school? Did you have to come home and go to work then? Or what
When
was?
school got out at 3 o'clock, by the time I walked home, if I wasn't over here by 3:30, he was looking for me.
Your father was looking
Yeah.
for you, yeah. And what kind of work were you doing then?
What type of chores?
I know they had a pool hall in Palatine.
Oh,
I
yes.
always used to walk by that. They knew me, but I didn't know any of them. But they knew who I was. my dad grew tomatoes, and around 1942, he started growing carnations. And I don't know if you remember Hank, Mr. Mersch, he had the greenhouse over on the end of Rose Street.
No, I don't remember. I
Okay.
guess I wasn't here then. When I came in '68, and these big condos and things weren't there.
No,
I lived in the apartments over there, down Johnson. So I saw you every day.
So where was Mr. Mersch's greenhouse?
Mersch,
The end of the block, you said?
at the end of this block,
The end of that block?
right up against the railroad tracks.
Okay.
I think he was here since World War One.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad grew radishes and cucumbers. In fact, when they threw the cucumbers out, us kids, the vines would dry up and they would be like tubes in there. And we would cut them up and smoke them.
Oh my God.
But I haven't never smoked a cigarette.
Cucumbers.
Yeah, only cucumbers.
So with the vegetables that he was growing, did he sell them all here, or did he take them into the
South
city?
Water Market.
Water Market, okay.
In fact, when we lived in the city, we had a big garden, and then my mother used to wrap up beans, and we had a little route we would go through. And I remember, he had sweet corn, 15 cents a dozen. And I ran into a janitor, and I said, we'll charge 15 cents, or it was two ears for a quarter. So I said, 15 cents a dozen. And he said, oh, no, 12 and a half cents. I was gonna get an extra nickel and buy my brother and I a popsicle.
Oh my God.
The things you remember.
Yeah.
Now, did your father have horses, or were they tractors?
He had an old Diamond T, solid rubber tires.
Okay.
And the lamps on the side, you had to light them, they were propane.
Propane.
He used to take me down to the South Water Market with him. He would leave around 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
He'd always try to drive in the streetcar tracks because it'd be nice and smooth.
How long would it take to get down to that?
Well, from Rogers Park, it wasn't that bad. We used to go down Ashland Avenue to Racine, and then over to, they've moved the South Water Market now. It's a new location.
Okay. Did you have any free time where you could do something?
Oh, I used to love, we used to, at 6:30, I was through after supper, and then we used to run over to Arlington. I had a friend that used to play tennis, and we would play tennis, or all kinds of sports. Never ran out of energy.
Did you hunt? Did you hunt in the area, like pheasant or foxes or anything like that?
No, I had a friend that used to, we would catch raccoons in the greenhouse, and I'd take them over to my friend, and he would skin them. And I'd give them to him. I didn't want them. That was
They come to
cold.
the greenhouse, huh?
That was coldsy.
Oh, yeah. Now, I remember when they had a farm stand over there
Oh, yeah.
on 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he do with the skins?
Well, I guess they were able to sell them. I guess you put them on a board and then you stretch them out.
That's what Daniel Boone's hat was from.
So when did you get married?
Oh, I was 40 years old when I got married.
Wow.
Okay.
I was the oldest, and I was waiting for all the others to get married, and they were as slow as I was.
Where did you meet your wife? Did you meet her here in Palatine?
No, in Norwood Park.
Okay.
In fact, it was at a bar. In fact, she was with her girlfriend, and I had a buddy was with it. He was saying, oh man, and then I said, I said, mine isn't too bad either. And I start going out with her. And then she got tired of me waiting, and so when I got 40, I said, well, I might as well, if I'm going to do anything, I better do it now. And I got 3 children, I got 7 grandchildren. So in fact, this one scared the hell out of me. He's 9 years old, and he had the bone marrow of an 85-year-old.
Ooh.
And they took him to Duke Hospital, which is, I guess, one of the finest in North Carolina. And it affected his eyes, but he's doing fantastic.
That's good.
I guess he'd been in the hospital, he was there for 4 months. But I guess, from what I gather, Duke is quite famous.
Yes.
In fact, I was looking at a map. In fact, the whole area is, thank you.
I hear ya.
Jesse Jackson we put him in a coop just down from Chapel Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
I
heard that
guess
on the news
20
last
miles away.
Did your children stay in the area?
Well, Valerie runs the flower shop and Kenny runs the greenhouse, and they're both doing fantastic jobs. They're not making any money, but they're still hanging in there. I get things, well, with Obama, things were real bad in 09 and 10. Man, you couldn't pay your bills. But things have changed now. You can tell people are spending more money.
So does your brother still run, you and your brother run this, or
Well, my brother called it quits.
what was your brother's name?
Edward.
Edward, okay.
Yeah, he lives in Central and Milwaukee.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
It's right on the fringe. He used to take the expressway coming out.
Yeah, it's very close to Jefferson Park.
And when he got married, he was only going to live 1 year in that area because his father-in-law had the house. But 40 years later, he was still living there. And then she passed away.
Oh, can you tell us about some of the changes that you've seen?
You mean the missed opportunities?
How has this town changed? You've been here, this is your 75th anniversary?
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. How has the town changed since you first came here?
I would say the town has really changed in the last 20 years. Because when we moved out here, Palatine was 2,200 in 1938.
Wow.
And now I think it's 70,000. And
78.
most of this change has come within the last 20 years. On Plum Grove and over there on.
Mhm.
And then the new police station, the Taj Mahal. Kopecki's were our main, and we opened up in '55, and they didn't notice that we were here until the following Valentine's Day, and then they realized that there was competition. But we always got along good with Kopec. Kay has been real good, and then Bob was always real good. We never really, I don't think we ever really competed against each other because they were more of a upscale, and then we were more of the blue collared,
But they bought flowers from you to use?
Well, not really.
No.
We took them down to the wholesale market.
Oh, okay.
Or in fact, there was a trucker that would pick them up. We grew carnations and pom-poms and snapdragons. My dad had to learn. He was always, growing radishes and cucumbers and tomatoes. We used to grow a lot of tomatoes in Chicago. In fact, as a kid, I always remember you had to pollinate the plants, shake them, And that was our job after we got home from school. We had a rubber hose, and my brother was on one side and I was on the other side, going down the island, tapping the tomatoes to shake the power. I know my dad had hives of bees too. Somebody would bring the hives of bees close to the greenhouse. And when they opened the vents, the bees would come in.
And pollinate.
Yeah. Well, the old timers were pretty smart.
Oh, yes.
They didn't have what we had, you know, they didn't have the computers, but they were able to
They knew
manage.
what they were doing, yeah.
Well, look at what they did. I know I was in Europe and I marvel at these cathedrals that they built. How the hell did they ever get up that high?
How has the land around here changed?
Well, they built Paddock School, and then they built this apartment, and that was it turned out to be a real dump. And then they finally tore it down and built these real nice condos. I think Palatine was pretty nice. They got some real nice areas in Palatine. A lot of money in Palatine.
Didn't Johnson used to go through all the way to Plum Grove?
Oh yeah, I fought that.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was up at the Village Hall and I said, you know, you guys are playing games, you know. I guess they sold they owned the building on Johnson, but they sold the property to Illinois Bell. They sold the street, so they closed the street. And then Gus was mayor, and Gus said, oh, we got too many streets in Palatine already. Well, you know, the railroad track, you know, they closed off Bothwell. Couldn't go across and that deadened that side of the town.
When was the sulky track here?
Right?
When was the sulky track here?
Well, I think around 1940.
Where exactly was it?
The property next to us, where
Okay.
the Paddock School is,
Okay.
was at 40 acres, and he had a sulky track around the whole thing.
Who did?
Gorsline. He had at the end of Smith Street on Palatine Road, he had a house and a stable, and he had a horse in there, and he would hook up the horse. He was a retired doctor, and in fact, this whole area is named Gorsline subdivision.
Oh, that's something I didn't know.
Well, now you do.
Yeah. Thanks.
In fact, Dr. Stark, where they got the park, that's where he lived,
Yeah.
and that was torn down.
So those houses were still here when you came?
Oh, yeah, in fact, Dr. Stark was my dad, handled my dad when he had his heart attack. I don't know if he was a good doctor, but he was the only doctor. In fact, I always remember my sister had an appendicitis attack, and she had to get up on the operating table.
Oh my God.
Well, you were inside that hospital then, right? What was there?
No, it was, where the drugstore is upstairs.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I think I was in there I remember going swimming and I split my toe and I had to have some stitches put in. And I went there, and then the nurse put the stitches in.
The nurse did.
Yeah. Yeah, Arlington was, I think, a step ahead of us, but we always beat them in basketball.
What was your first car that you owned?
In fact, my first real new car was an '87 Buick. I was real proud of that, but it was a lemon.
Oh.
In fact, I used to kid my wife. I said, the engine got clogged up with oil, and I said, you should do your shopping in Rockford, get it on the road. She didn't think too much of that idea. I did a few things right.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then now the kids are toying with the village to put a sign up on that. We're good friends with the people on the corner, and they're getting a sign. Well, I guess it's gonna cost over $5,000. It's hand carved, Kinsch Village floors.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, you can see it from the road.
Yeah.
They're real nice people on the corner. I guess her husband used to have the neighbor's lumber yard on Colfax.
Colfax. Not Comforts.
Oh, no,
No.
way before Comfort.
Before that?
Yeah,
What's their name?
neighbor. I think these, Home Depots and places like that put them out of business,
Oh, sure, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But he's a real good guy. In fact, he built for the parade, 4th of July parade. My son's wife had him build a ferry house, and we put it on the trailer, and then the little kids were dressed in ferry
Oh,
outfits,
how cute.
and they were running around, and real cute.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Oh,
So this house on the corner that you lived in when you came here, is that the same house still
Yeah,
there?
it's the same house. We've added on to it and built a new garage. We
Okay.
moved the driveway. The driveway used to be like that, and so we moved it over on the other side of the house. You do a lot of different things.
Now, today, this is a florist shop and a garden shop, but I see you also have parties here. And what do you do for those parties?
Well, that's my son's, they bought a lot of inflatables, and they used to have Oktoberfest, and my daughter-in-law went up to the village hall, and, oh man, she had a fantastic, program. It was gonna be fantastic. We were gonna make a lot of money, Well, they had animals come in, that was $1,000 a week. By the time you got through, you didn't make anything. So they finally decided, we're gonna just open it for parties and stuff. And they bought a real huge slide, inflatable, and then they've got a haunted house inflatable, and different inflatables. And then and then Kenny gives them a little lecture through the greenhouses and shows them around. He's real good.
No, he's the one we talked to when we first came here to ask him if we could have an interview.
No,
Now, there were teams that played here in Palatine too, right?
well, my brother was on that team when they played in Palatine.
Yeah,
That was softball,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
and where did they play?
right across from the old village hall in that park.
The old village hall,
Community park. Or,
community park.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They had lights there, and they had a good team. They used to get a pretty good crowd.
I know that they were champions a couple of times.
Yeah. It was fast pitching, underhand. The name of that game was pitching too. Be 1-0, 3-2 or something like that.
How much did it cost to watch the game, to get in?
Oh, they would pass a hat. It's like we used to go to Arlington. They used to have hardball down there in the 40s, and they had an old timer who would run around passing a hat. And we would just try to keep ahead of him.
did you ever have livestock here? Did you ever have like horses and pigs and chickens and?
My dad, during the war, raised a couple of hogs. The only problem with that is we gave them a name, and then when they butchered them, we named them after my dad had an attorney, a Jewish attorney, And they named him after him, Sam. And then nobody could eat Sam.
Yeah.
We made a pet out of him. We used to scratch his back with a rake.
Oh my
And
God.
he used to love ragweed. And then I know when I was in high school, I raised some chickens and they got sick on me, and I won't eat chickens to this day. Oh, when they get sick, man, they look terrible.
Oh.
I think they call it coccidosis or something like that.
That's it.
So how many generations have owned this business?
Well, it would be two. Three. My dad, me,
And your son?
and my son now. He doesn't own it, but he still runs it.
Okay.
In fact, half the time I don't know what's going on.
Now, who owns it? Does you and your brother own it?
Yeah.
You and your brother, okay. Or and your sisters? Or just,
Well, when my mother passed away, we divided up all her assets to my sisters, and then my brother and I took the greenhouses.
Okay.
My mother passed away in 1952. That's almost over 20 years
and
ago.
where's she buried at?
Oh, All Saints.
All Saints?
Yeah.
Okay.
My wife is at at St. Michael's.
St. Michael's, okay.
She's been 9 years now. Yeah, time goes by.
Yes. Faster than we would like sometimes.
Well, my mother always said, she lived to be 96, and she said, I don't know where the hell the time has gone. But I know one thing, hard work won't kill you.